As the early morning mist began to lift from the verdant rainforest of Malaya, a trio of Havilland Hornet DH.103s from the RAF's No. 45 Squadron vaulted into the tropical skies, their twin Merlin engines roaring in unison as they set off to hunt down their communist enemy. While the Hornet had originally been conceived as a high-speed fighter for World War II's Pacific Theater, by the early 1950s, it was at the forefront of Britain's campaign to put down the insurgency that had erupted in their Southeast Asian colony, breaking out from its intended role to prove it was just as adept at ground attacks. Looking down upon the endless green below as they zoomed over the thick jungle, the DH-103's pilots knew they had a difficult task ahead, their target hidden somewhere beneath the dense canopy. With only their maps to guide them, the three Hornets surged into the marked area before swooping down like the predatory insects for which they were named. One by one, their lethal 1,000-pound bombs plummeted through the treetops before shattering the tranquility of the undergrowth below with deafening explosions. Leaving little but a sea of smoke and chaos in their wake, the Hornets disappeared into the horizon, eagerly awaiting their moment to strike again. Experts worldwide generally agree that the Havilland Aircraft Company's DH-103 Hornet represented the pinnacle of a piston-engine fighter. The aircraft's slim fuselage, clean lines, and tightly cowled engines were designed with great attention to detail to maximize performance from the outset. This legendary British fighter emerged from a private venture to devise a successor for the company's renowned Mosquito fighter, which pioneered the wooden construction techniques employed with aircraft design. Following in the footprints of the Mosquito, de Havilland set out to develop a more robust design, with the result being the prototypes of the DH-103 Hornet, which flew for the first time in late 1944. The Hornet was equipped with two 2,070 horsepower Merlin engines with four-bladed propellers, four 20mm Hispano 5 cannons under the fuselage, and the option to carry 8 60-pound unguided rockets or 2 bombs or fuel drop tanks. During trials at Boscombe Down, the aircraft achieved a remarkable maximum speed of 485 miles per hour at an altitude of 22,000 feet. If this was not impressive enough, the Hornet also demonstrated excellent handling at high altitudes, especially in its high roll rate. Construction-wise, the Hornet was a mix of balsa and plywood similar to the Mosquito. It also incorporated stressed outclad lower wing skins to the upper wing structure with adhesive redux. It also made several improvements to the Mosquito's design, especially regarding the wing design, resulting in a thinner cross-section and laminar flow, like on the American Mustang and Hawker Tempest. The wing also incorporated hydraulic split flaps and outclad covered ailerons that extended to the clipped wingtips, providing the fighter with excellent roll control. The Hornet's twin-tail design was more streamlined and efficient at high speeds and altitudes compared to the single vertical stabilizer of the Mosquito. This design feature helped improve stability and control, especially in the demanding high altitudes the fighter was envisioned for. Overall, the Hornet featured a thinner wing profile with a smaller and sleeker fuselage, resulting in improved aerodynamics and performance at high altitudes. Furthermore, the Hornet refined the use of wood in its construction, with greater emphasis on minimizing weight and maximizing strength. Despite this, it also integrated more metal components in its structure than the Mosquito, while retaining superior performance. This focus on speed and altitude performance contrasted with the Mosquito's multi-role versatility, which included fighter-bomber, reconnaissance aircraft, and light bomber roles. There were 7 variants of the de Havilland Hornet. The F1 was the fighter version, and 60 were built. The PR2 was a photo reconnaissance variant, with 5 produced. The F3 was an improved fighter version that reached a few 132, and the FR4 was a unique blend of a fighter recon version, of which 12 were developed. De Havilland also came up with 3 variants of the Sea Hornet, with the first one being the F20, tailored specifically for service on British aircraft carriers, reaching a production number of 79. It was succeeded by the NF-21, carrying Merlin 133-135 engines on the 72 night fighters used by the Fleet Air Arm. The company also developed 22 Sea Hornet PR-22 aircraft, an unarmed photo reconnaissance version for use with the Royal Navy. As expected, the Sea Hornet NF-21 had inferior performance compared to the land-based Hornet F3 fighter. For instance, the F3 was powered by two 2,070 horsepower RR Merlin 130-131 engines and could reach a top speed of 472 miles per hour at an altitude of 22,000 feet with a maximum range of 2,600 miles. On the other hand, the Sea Hornet was equipped with two 2,030 horsepower RR Merlin 133-134 engines and could reach a maximum speed of 430 miles per hour at an altitude of 22,000 feet with an approximate range of 1,500 miles. Furthermore, the Hornet F3 had a maximum weight of 20,900 feet and could carry the pilot, 4 20mm Hispano cannons, and either 2,000-pound bombs or 8 60-pound rockets. As for the Sea Hornet, it had a maximum takeoff weight of 19,530 pounds. Nevertheless, some British pilots grew fond of the Sea Hornet and praised the aircraft for its outstanding capabilities and control. Such was the case of one of the world's most renowned test pilots and one of Britain's finest, former fighter pilot and captain of the Fleet Air Arm, Eric Winkle Brown. As one of the most praised test pilots who flew dozens of different aircraft throughout his career, Captain Winkle Brown's opinion mattered, and he was one of the first to fly the Sea Hornet. A semi-naval variant arrived at the Royal Aircraft Establishment Farnborough for Captain Brown to test. Almost 40 years later, the acclaimed captain recalled his first experiences aboard the Sea Hornet during an interview with Air International magazine in 1982, saying, quote, "The next 2 months of handling and deck landing assessment trials were to be an absolute joy. From the outset, the Sea Hornet was a winner." He described the Sea Hornet as effortlessly maneuverable on the ground, thanks to its powerful braking system. Captain Brown would even say flying the Sea Hornet was like flying a Ferrari in the sky, praising its looks and excellent handling and performance. Flying the Sea Hornet was an absolute bliss for the captain. In his own words, quote, "The excessive power was such that maneuvers in the vertical plane can only be rocket-like. Even with one propeller feathered, the Sea Hornet could loop with the best single-engine fighter, and its aerodynamic cleanliness was such that I delighted in its demonstration by diving with both engines at full bore and feathering both propellers before pulling up into a loop." Captain Brown made numerous landings aboard HMS Ocean without a crash barrier and never lost confidence in the aircraft. He felt relaxed aboard it and never thought of the imminent dangers of landing without additional safety measures. However, despite its sleek design, the Sea Hornet had some flaws. During numerous flights, Captain Brown discovered that the ailerons were too heavy for proper deck landings. In addition, the brakes and the underperforming rubber and compression undercarriage legs were also among the drawbacks of the aircraft. Despite the Sea Hornet's impressive appearance and performance, which surely captivated its pilots, the era of piston-engine fighters was already ending, even before the de Havilland aircraft took to the skies for the first time. By that point, the introduction of jet-powered aircraft was beginning, with models such as the Gloucester Meteor, the Messerschmitt Me-262, and the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star already making their mark through test flights and joining the fight in Europe. While the de Havilland Hornet had better range than some of these early jet aircraft, it was no match for their superb speeds and handling. This shift led to a new age of warfare, further emphasized by the arrival of even more advanced jets, like the Soviet MiG-15. These lethal aircraft dramatically changed air combat dynamics, rendering the skies increasingly tricky for those pilots flying the older, less capable piston-engine fighters, especially if they lacked experience in dogfighting and aircraft maneuvers. Nonetheless, as one of the last piston-engine fighters developed during the war, the Hornet represented the pinnacle of this technology. Its performance, range, and capabilities were considerable. It was faster than the most iconic British fighter of World War II, the Spitfire. Renowned for its superb handling and performance, the Spitfire generally offered lower top speeds and less range than the Hornet, peaking at around 450 miles per hour in its later variants. The same occurred when compared with one of the most compelling American fighters that flew over Europe, the P-51 Mustang. Thanks to its Merlin engine, it was a reliable fighter with excellent long-range escort capabilities and superior performance at high altitudes. With top speeds of around 437 miles per hour, the P-51 excelled in both dogfighting and ground attack roles, though it generally offered less speed but comparable range to the Hornet. Axis aircraft also fell behind the Hornet. One of the Luftwaffe's most reliable fighters, the Focke-Wulf FW-190, could reach speeds of over 410 miles per hour and was feared by the Allies for its firepower, speed, and maneuverability. However, the FW-190 generally could not match the Hornet's high-altitude performance or speed. If deployed in the Pacific, the Hornet would have also proved its superiority over the Mitsubishi A6M0, which established complete air dominance during the early years of the conflict in the Pacific. It only had a top speed of around 330 miles per hour, making it significantly slower than the Hornet, and lacking its high-altitude capabilities. Overall, in theory, the successor of the Mosquito would have instilled fear in the heart of the enemy and led the Allies to victory if it had been deployed for combat before the conflict ended. Still, destiny had other plans, and the Hornets entered service in mid-1946, with their actual combat deployments coming in 1951 during the Malayan emergency. Hornet aircraft were redeployed to the Far East Air Force, joining Squadrons 45, 33, and 80 to fight against communist guerrillas and assist local government forces. The Hornets replaced outdated Bristol Beaufighters and Supermarine Spitfires. Armed with rockets and 1,000-pound bombs, the Hornets decimated the enemy opposition with swift, accurate, and devastating strikes. The reliable fighters also escorted Avro Lincoln bombers during bombing raids and escorted ground convoys through hostile territory. 45th Squadron Hornets in Singapore rose to notoriety after performing over 4,500 operational sorties in 5 years, the highest in the Far East Air Force. As part of their operational service in the Pacific, the Hornets also played a crucial role in rescue efforts, following the shootdown of a Cathay Pacific Skymaster near the coast of Hainan Island in 1954. However, the last operational sortie by a Hornet was flown in 1955, and by late 1956, all the operational Hornets were retired from the Fleet Air Arm. Due to their wooden airframe, the British weather slowly consumed the Hornets in storage. As a result, there's not a single Hornet today that remains in excellent condition, though some are reportedly awaiting restoration. Echoing the cherished Captain Brown during his 1982 interview with the Air International magazine, quote, "Circumstances had conspired against the Sea Hornet in obtaining the recognition it deserved as a genuinely outstanding warplane. In my book, the Sea Hornet ranks second to none for harmony of control, performance, characteristics, and perhaps most importantly, inspiring confidence in its pilot. For sheer exhilarating flying enjoyment, no aircraft has ever made a deeper impression on me than did this outstanding filly from the de Havilland stable."